Welcome to Meet Your Neighbor, the podcast that highlights the people and stories that make Westbrook Village a truly exceptional community. I'm your host, Steve Marilla, local realtor, neighbor, and proud member of this vibrant community. Each episode, we sit down with residents to learn about their careers, life experiences, and what brought them to Westbrook Village. It's a chance to connect, share, and celebrate the unique journeys that shape our neighborhood. Thanks for tuning in. And now, let's meet your neighbor. Welcome to Meet Your Neighbor. Over the course of this podcast, I have had the opportunity to sit down with some fascinating people and hear some incredible stories. And every once in a while, there's a moment in the interview that gets to me, something that makes me laugh, surprises me, or stays with me long after the conversation is over. In this episode, I want to revisit a few of those moments, share what they meant to me, and let you hear the original clips. The first story comes from my conversation with David Sterling. David had spent his career in the construction industry, building homes, and he was very good at it. Then the market took a downturn, and suddenly he found himself starting over with 2 young boys, a wife, a family that he needed to support. David and his wife, Vicki, decided it was time to begin a new chapter, but instead of spending months trying to decide where to go, David covered his eyes, spun around, and placed his finger on the map. The finger landed on Seattle. What stayed with me the most was not just they chose Seattle. It was the way David talked about the difficult time in his life. There was no shame, bitterness, or negativity in his voice. It was simply something that happened, and he knew they had to face it and move forward. It took courage, confidence, and an incredible attitude to say, we are moving to Seattle, and we are going to start over. One of the things I've noticed in Westbrook Village is that you see some really strong and loving marriages. David and Vicki are a wonderful example of that. They were in it together. They moved to a new city, started again from scratch, raised their 2 boys and their big dog, and built a new life side by side. I think that is part of the story that impressed me the most. Now, here's David's story.
Pretty much worked for 25 years. I built custom homes, apartment complexes, industrial buildings. So I ran the gambit of just about everything you could build.
Sure.
And, but then just got to a point I was wanting a change. There was something telling me, you gotta get out of this, and you gotta not only get out of it, but go someplace else.
Oh, really?
So my wife and I at the time had 2 little boys, and we started kind of moving our way out of LA. And we moved to a bedroom community about 2 hours outside of Los Angeles in Riverside County. Found ourselves on a gated community with a private, beautiful ski lake.
Oh, wow.
And I just built up a business building waterfront homes.
Okay, so you were still, at this time, you're still working general contracting,
I still was,
building homes.
Yep.
Nice.
But still trying to figure out what I wanted to do after that. But, I had a good run for about 8 years.
Yeah.
Back then, you'd build a 3-car garage, and it was designed to have a ski boat in the 3rd bay.
Oh, neat.
So it was very unique. But anyhow, we finished up there, and we moved to Wyoming, where we lived for a couple years. I did a little developing there, and the market turned, and we really had to just look at each other and say, we got to do something to support our family.
How old were the kids? What year was this?
This was 96, 95,
Okay.
96.
All right.
Yeah, so 30 years ago.
30 years ago, and your kids were just young then?
Yeah.
Okay.
3 and 7.
Okay, so, and you hit the downswing, and you're
did.
like, what are we going to do? So I bet you felt good you had a good partner.
I had a tremendous partner, but you're right. It's tough when you're down to zero, and you have debt,
and you have
right?
3 mouths to feed besides yours,
and a large dog. But anyhow, we finished up there, and this is a true story, Steve.
Yeah.
We pulled out a map, and we really were at that point where we're deciding, where are we going? We're going to move. Yeah, we put our house on the market. I built a custom home in Wyoming. It was pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter how beautiful your home is if you don't pay your bills can't pay your bills every month.
Right.
So we took the map out. We thought, well, maybe we'll go back to LA. And then the other thought was my wife was originally from Seattle. And she said, maybe we should think about moving to the Pacific Northwest. So I said,
Wow.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to cover my eyes. I'm going to spin around once, and then I'm going to put my finger down on the map. And whichever area is closer, that's where we're going to move.
Okay.
And it was close to the Pacific Northwest.
Really?
And right then and there, we decided we're moving to Seattle.
Huh. How long did you spend in Seattle then?
Oh my gosh, 26 years.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where our boys really grew up.
Sure.
We lived across the street from a beautiful lake, and we had a private beach, and we always knew where the kids were.
Sure. Nice.
And we knew where all their friends were too, because they'd come and hang out. And it was just great times.
If David and Vicki's story touched you, I encourage you to go back and listen to my entire conversation with David Sterling. You can find the full episode of Meet Your Neighbor wherever you listen to podcasts. The next story is about Brad Nahrstadt. And in many ways, Brad represents the entire reason I started Meet Your Neighbor. We were driving to play pickleball. Kelly was driving. Brad was sitting in the back seat. And Kelly asked, what should we talk about? I said, how about we talk about how Brad was given the gift I wanted more than almost anything in my life? Kelly looked at me and asked, what gift? I told her that Brad had known what he wanted to do with his life since he was in the 6th grade. See, in the 6th grade, Brad learned about constitutional law. And something about it immediately connected with him. From the moment on, he knew he wanted to become an attorney. He followed that dream and went on to become a highly respected corporate defense attorney in Chicago. Kelly looked at me and asked, how'd you know that? And I said, because I listen. That little moment has always stayed with me because it captures what this podcast is really about. I love learning people's stories. Every person has an experience that has shaped who they are. But sometimes we get so busy that we forget to ask questions, or we ask them without taking the time to truly listen to the answers. Brad's story reminded me when we slow down, pay attention, and really listen, we can learn something meaningful about almost anyone. Here's the part of my conversation with Brad. The reason I really want to interview you is because I had said before, you were given a gift that I always wanted. And I don't know if I have it right, so I'm going to say it, and you can correct it.
Okay, all right.
But the story I remember hearing was in 4th grade, an attorney came to your class. He did some kind of presentation. I assume it was bring your dad to work or something. And no one in your family was a lawyer, but you decided that day, I want to be a lawyer. And you did everything, obviously, the rest of your life to become a lawyer. Is that a true story?
Yes.
Yes.
So there's a little twist to it.
Yep.
So I grew up in Illinois. And in Illinois, in order to graduate from 8th grade, you had to pass a test on the U.S. Constitution.
Yep.
And so in 6th grade, they started, as part of the social studies program, they started introducing you to the concepts of the Constitution.
Okay.
So that you could start to learn it, so that by the time you got to 8th grade and took this test, you'd pass.
You could actually pass.
Because if you didn't pass, you didn't get out of 8th grade. You had to repeat 8th grade. So their goal was to make sure you knew the information about the Constitution so you could pass this test.
So that joke about 8th grade was the best 3 years of my life was really a thing there.
Yes,
Okay.
because it took me a while to get through that test. So when we started studying the Constitution, they say that the Constitution is the law of the land. And so
Right.
I thought incorrectly, that's what lawyers did, that they dealt with the Constitution.
Sure.
And I thought it was a fascinating topic. So I was like, well, if that's what lawyers do, that's what I want to do.
Okay.
So, and then we did have, as part of that program, we did have lawyers who would come in and talk to us about the law and about the Constitution. And so
Right.
I was like, okay, I've never met a lawyer. I don't, and I clearly didn't know what they did, right? Because
Right.
I thought there are very few lawyers that deal with constitutional issues. That's
Right.
a very, very small subset of the law, but that's what I thought they did. And I was like, that seems cool to me. So that's what I'm going to do. And I never thought about doing anything else.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So but do you feel like I feel like that was quite a gift that was given to you to have that decision because most of us struggle with
Right.
multiple careers, not knowing where to live, what to do, but to have that, you had that goal.
I think I got lucky
Okay.
because I clearly didn't know what a lawyer really did. And I didn't have anyone I could really ask because
Right.
no one in my family was a lawyer and we didn't know any lawyers. So I was blissfully ignorant about what lawyers really do. I say I got lucky because it turns out once I got to law school and figured out what I thought I wanted to do as a lawyer, it happened to fit perfectly with my personality and with what I think my skills were.
Sure.
So I got lucky because
Huh.
I wound up practicing law for 30 years because this 6th grade kid thought, oh, lawyers deal with the Constitution. It'll be a fun thing for me to
Right.
deal with. And
What did your mom and dad do?
uh, my dad was a route salesman for Pepsi-Cola. So he drove a truck and delivered pop to grocery stores, convenience stores, and gas stations.
Okay.
And my mother was an office manager for a manufacturing company.
And how did they respond when you said, "Hey, I'm going to be a lawyer"?
They were like, okay, great.
Huh.
They didn't know where that came from. They're like, all right. Neither one of my parents went to college.
Okay.
I have a twin sister. My twin sister and I were the first people in our family to go to college.
Oh, wow.
So they had no idea, they knew that, okay, you go to college and then I think you have to go to law school and you have to pass a bar exam. They knew that much.
Right.
That's really all they knew. They're like, if that's what you want to do, great.
Brad's full episode is well worth hearing. And this was not our only conversation. Brad is also an author, and we recorded a second episode about being an author and his passion for history. You can find both of Brad's episodes of Meet Your Neighbor wherever you listen to podcasts. These are the moments I love most about doing this podcast. It is not just about sitting down and recording an interview. It is about slowing down, paying attention, and giving someone the opportunity to share the experience that have made them who they are. Thank you to David and Brad and every guest who has trusted me enough to share their story. And thank you for taking the time to listen to Meet Your Neighbor. Thanks again for tuning into the Meet Your Neighbor podcast. Real estate is how I'm able to support this show and give back to our community. If you or someone you know is thinking about buying or selling a home in Arizona, I'd love to help. I also offer a free real estate review, basically a health checkup for your home's value and market position. You can call or text me anytime at 651-295-6830. Again, that's 651-295-6830. I'd be honored to help you or your neighbors with the next chapter of your real estate journey. And thanks again for listening, and be sure to keep connecting.